stuff when I play. There'll be 3 commercials, and then I'll let you guys know when we are live. I don't know.
Did Ray tell you what one of our main topics was for tonight, Brian?
There's so many.
What got us into horror?
What got us into horror? Oh yeah, I remember that from the video.
Okay. I just didn't know if you guys had a chance to talk because Ray is like MIA right now.
Okay.
And we don't even need to like talk long about it, but I figured, since Ash versus the Evil Dead got canceled today, we could probably start off with that. That's kind of big news. Hey, maybe Netflix could pick it up. They seem to be throwing a lot of money around right now.
Lex Quinn, are you even wearing clothes?
Yes.
I don't see clothes.
I am. Do you not see this pants?
You're wearing my pants. That's it. Oh my god. I'm so sorry, guys. Can you see that?
No.
She sounds grumpy.
She just woke up. She was.
Oh.
You fell asleep.
I did not fall asleep. I've been awake for like 3 hours. I was eating soup. I was dancing around the kitchen. I was doing all sorts of stuff.
Then why did you fall asleep?
I didn't, Lex
Yes,
Quinn.
you did.
You hear this?
She sounds like she just got out of the dentist.
Yeah. She just fucking woke up. Yeah, she's all grumpy. You all tuckered out now, Lex Quinn?
If you guys are watching on Facebook, the Jason Goes to Hell trailer is playing.
Excellent.
Ray has put us live on YouTube, so anybody can see us on YouTube. There's a lot of weird noises going on over there, Lex.
Tired? Where are you tired from?
Michael!
Huh? What are you so tired from, Lex Quinn?
You falling asleep.
Oh, you're tired from me falling asleep.
The next trailer that's playing is Revenge.
Revenge?
Yeah, the trailer I sent you guys last night.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to watch that yet. Lex Quinn was making me tired by falling asleep.
Guys, you kept snoring. I'm not sleeping. I want to hear it.
Lex Quinn, you're in the camera view.
No, I'm not.
Well, you have nothing to worry about as you're fully clothed.
I am not the camera view. I'm gonna kill you.
You promise?
Lex Quinn, if you lunge at me, I'll take one step back, and then Facebook Live is gonna get to see the full Quinn.
No, we're not.
Okay, I posted on Facebook that we're talking about our films that got us into horror, the cancellation of Ash versus Evil Dead, and more. So I don't know what this and more is going to be, so start thinking of stuff, guys. Be the hard part.
And stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch the trailer. I'm watching it now. It looks pretty good.
For Revenge?
What happens? She dies and comes back to life?
Yeah, I mean...
Spoiler alert, now I know that there's a girl in it.
She fucking Rambos herself, like cauterizes the wound and goes on a rampage.
Ooh.
And she's fucking hot.
What the fuck is that? Oh.
And she's got a sniper rifle, so that's kind of sexy.
And now the Terrifier trailer is playing, and we will start the show.
Are you going to be joining us tonight, Lex Quinn?
I don't know. Do you want me to? I look like garbage. So.
Lex Quinn, I look like garbage.
Terrifier sounds like it would totally be an awesome 80s theme song to a horror film.
Yeah, it does.
Terrifier! It's coming to kick you in the fucking nuts!
That's like half of what I was expecting for planning myself for my theme song I was gonna write called The Terrifier. I submitted it to them, but they didn't take it. Except I thought it was TERRORFIRE. So mine was about sentient flames.
How much longer till we go live?
Couple minutes.
Like a minute or two.
Lex Quinn.
Keeps making these weird moaning
Just
and groaning
say I'll be
noises.
joining you guys later because I'm still finishing what I was doing.
All right, just join us whenever.
Mm-hmm. In the words of our departed show, join us on BitTorrent.
I need to see this movie. This movie looks good.
It's got some good kills in it, but it's not gonna break the bank. It's not gonna break the mold. It's not anything you haven't seen before.
Guy. Because he was a segment in All Hallows Eve, right?
Yeah.
What is your shirt? What do you mean, Lex Quinn? You have it on.
No, it's here.
The other shirt. The shirt you're wearing. Is she grumpy like this all the time when she wakes up?
I can't talk about that. Not a lot of you guys.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of THS Lives here tonight. My name is Brian Enright. You can follow me on Facebook at Brian Enright, or you can follow me on the Instagram and Twitter at The Horror Jew. I don't really go on Twitter, but you can follow me on there. I think I have like 100-something friends. Or is that how it works? I don't fucking know. Up next, we have Jared Letourneau. Hold on, Jared, before you say anything. Say something.
Something.
There you go. Now introduce yourself, Jared. It's always a good transition.
Hey, boils and ghouls out there. You guys can follow me on Facebook if that's your thing at Jared Letourneau, or follow me on Twitter at zombie_survivor. Back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Jared. Ray Merrick will be joining us later tonight. But we have one more not guest. He's now a host with us. Mr. Director himself, Mike Lombardo. Mike, good evening.
Guys. Hi. You can find me on The Horror Syndicate Lives right now. You can also find me at www.realsplatter.com. You can find me at facebook.com/realsplatter. And of course, as always, this is real with 2 E's. And you can also find me at the Crimson Screen Horror Film Festival in South Carolina next month. We're playing I'm Dreaming for White Doomsday. Shameless self-promotion. Back to you, Brian.
There's nothing shameless here, except for when I get naked. Shameless. But speaking about things being really sad, like me naked, Starz has officially announced that they're canceling, or that they have canceled Ash versus the Evil Dead. I know this is very upsetting to a lot of people who've been pirating the show for years now. But you're gonna actually go pay and see the series now. No, it's not how it works. But hopefully Netflix will pick it up. Have you guys seen Ash vs. the Evil Dead? What did you guys think of it?
Go ahead, Miguel.
Oh, I'm going to be very unpopular tonight because I thought that show was trash.
Way to start it off.
Yeah. I love Evil Dead so much. Like I've been obsessed with those movies since I was a kid, and I was very, very excited for the show. And when I saw the first episode, it really irked me because they made Ash into like a bumbling idiot, and I know that's what Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell always talked about. Like that's what he's supposed to be. But like in Army of Darkness, he was like a badass. He was schmarmy and a dick, but he was still like a hero. And in this, they just kind of made him into a buffoon, and it just doesn't work for me. And like they made you can see what the Force is now. It's like a bunch of clouds, and they've got like I don't know. It reminds me of a show that would have been on like Sci-Fi Channel And that's not a good thing. I don't mean that in a like a nice way. I don't know. I just really hate the CGI gore. I don't think it's particularly well written, and it's not funny. I just, at this point, we've had 3 Evil Dead movies, 3 video games, about 75 different comic series, and a remake, and like I'm done. I don't need any more Evil Dead. Like, I love Evil Dead, but just let it go.
So you're saying it's time to put it to bed?
I mean, I'm sorry that the people that like the show, like, it sucks for them that the show got canceled. You know, piracy blows. And this was, you know, I think in a way this is kind of a good thing, because now we see that when there's something with cult appeal or something that's indie, like, piracy absolutely can fucking kill it. And, you know, hopefully this is a lesson to people. But
did they blame that as a reason for canceling it?
Yeah.
That was a big problem before, a year before. It's like they were getting really bad ratings, and they were talking about canceling it because of that.
That off-screen voice is the lovely Lex Quinn, who is sitting off camera. Sorry, Jared, go ahead.
She's Miss Grump Butt right now.
Over there.
You know, I really thoroughly enjoyed Ash vs. the Evil Dead. The first season was great. The second season was wonderful. I watched a little bit of the third season. I wish I would have collectively watched every episode. But I love Lucy Lawless. Don't get me wrong, but her character coming back to life and being evil, it just I couldn't get into it.
Fucking pointless character.
It was, and it just seems like it's just being extremely repetitive. But I love the kills. I think when they use the practical effects, it's awesome.
Character.
You know, when Bruce Campbell is being you know, really creepy Uncle Rapey Ash, I think it's hilarious at times. Actually, most of the time, and you know, it's always great to have Bruce Campbell in the show, and I love his sidekicks. They're fun, but I don't know. I just didn't. I don't see where the shows go, because they already went back to the cabin, and they kind of like pulled a Terminator Genesis where they rewrote, you know, the original movies, and I don't know. It was okay. It resonated pretty decently, but I just couldn't get into it. But I'm old. I can't get into any shows right now, and I'm not watching The Walking Dead. So,
you know, I will say this. I watched the whole first season, and I watched a little bit of the second, because I did give it a shot. Like, I really wanted to like it, because, you know, I love Evil Dead. The episode of the first season that's in the bookshop with that demon that like they did like the weird like 3D glasses effect around it, that was fucking awesome. That was like a straight up Lovecraft episode. And that episode was a lot more serious than the other ones were, because that's what I think I don't like about the other ones. They're too goofy. And I know everyone's like screaming it's Evil Dead, it's supposed to be goofy, but I honestly prefer the tone of the original movie to the second one. Like, I think the second one's a good mix of comedy and horror, but the show just goes straight up Three Stooges all the time, and I just don't like that. But that episode in the bookstore was fucking awesome, and the last 2 episodes of the first season where they're back at the cabin, that was fucking awesome too, because it felt like horror with comedy in it. It didn't feel like a comedy that just happened to have horror elements.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that works better.
I can agree with that tone. It did feel more like a comedy that had gore and some horror elements thrown in throughout.
It felt like My Name is Bruce, which was like a half-assed, like cheap version of Army of Darkness in a trailer.
I think that was a sci-fi movie, actually.
It was, and that's why I thought it looks like it reminded me of a Sci-Fi Channel thing. Like, it's like the Great Value brand Evil Dead.
I binged watched the first 2 seasons with my wife, and it held our attention, but I do agree that it felt uneven. And
yeah.
like Bruce's weird like delusions of himself and like how he sees himself as a figure. It's like that. I understand you're trying to turn something into like a 30-minute long episode, so you have to fill it with stuff, but it's like I like the entire time when he went back to his hometown and like the ashy slashy stuff, I just thought that was not needed.
I really hated the cop drama stuff they did in the first season.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching that, I'm like, this isn't fucking Evil Dead. And they brought Xena in it for some reason, and I'm like, I really don't want this anymore. I was like, I don't know. I'd rather just watch the old Evil Dead movies again. Like,
yeah,
you know. And the games are phenomenal.
I wish they would have just kind of. I know that the rights was an issue with Army of Darkness. I would have liked to see them, tackled Army of Darkness a little bit more. Like maybe send them back in time, and do that all again, or maybe collaborating the newer Evil Dead movie with the Bruce Campbell, like maybe he shows up to the cabin and he finds Mia, kind of like how it ended after the credits in the Evil Dead 2000 and what was it, 2013 when it came out. I would have loved to see something like that. I really didn't care for the storyline where Lucy Lawless is like, I wrote the Necronomicon, and like all of a sudden she's here, and it's just like, what's going on? But I mean, it was a fun show. It had a lot of great kills, and it held your attention because the episodes were only a half hour long. It wasn't like you're like sitting there for Walking Dead watching a half hour episode with 45 minutes of commercial. It's just.
But with a lot of the show, though, much like The Walking Dead, is a lot of the episodes that I saw felt like filler. It's like, well, we don't really have much of a plot here, so let's just have them stop at a diner for an entire episode and CGI a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was the point of this? Like, when I was like 12, it would have been really cool to see. But now I'm just like, there's no forward momentum. This season could have been half as long and probably better if they would have just trimmed some shit out of it. Like, I don't know, I mean, I never loved Evil Dead for its rich plot, It's like
anybody out there on Facebook, if you want to weigh in on the discussion, what do you guys think of Ash versus the Evil Dead?
We got a few comments.
Looks like Joe Ridgely said started getting stupid.
Yeah, guys, what do you think? Let's be very interactive. We don't have a guest this week, so we're definitely gonna have
I want to throw a weird question out there for like the younger generation. Had the younger generation saw the TV show first, would they get a better impression than somebody who grew up loving the movies like the four of us?
That's a really interesting question. I don't know, because when I saw them, so much of why I loved Evil Dead was because I was an aspiring filmmaker. So hearing a story about a bunch of guys in the middle of some bumfuck nowhere just getting together and making a movie and like doing it was, that was what I was into. So that was so much of my love of those movies is honestly the behind the scenes of how it was made. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's really interesting to see, like, if they just saw the show, which, I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, that's seriously what's happening. I've talked to so many people that know about Evil Dead because of that show. Then they go back and watch the movies. And I really do think tonally they're very different. So I'm curious what people that were introduced from the show first think of the movies.
Yeah, I mean, Ash vs. the Evil Dead was just like, what if, the comedic elements of Army of Darkness continued, and we just have a overweight Ash who lives in a trailer, and like he still got the same charisma from Ash from the Army of Darkness, because Ash from Evil Dead,
but he's not as cool and smooth like that Ash was.
Yeah, that's definitely was more serious than the show is, and he's way more charismatic because he's like an adventure movie hero in Army of Darkness.
Yeah, and in Evil Dead, he's just fucking frustrated and pissed off because like he's been fighting the undead all night, and he's tired, and he's like, there's no fucking way to stop the Deadites from trying to kill me, and they're not killing me. They're toying with me. They possess my hand. And everyone that keeps coming into this cabin keeps dying in front of me, and there is no way out of here. So he was frustrated. And then when the humor came along, like, oh man, I'm gonna pop a chainsaw on my, on my nub.
Yeah.
It's like there's a reason for that because he's pissed off and he wants this over with. And he kind of does that in Army of Darkness, but it's definitely like if you see where the studio stepped in and was like, all right, let's make this funny. And like it goes with like a lot of the times when with the scenes with the skeletons and how like they're all getting ready for battle and they're playing the flute and like they crack jokes and shit like that.
Welcome back to the land of the living.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I fucking loved that movie as a kid, and I don't think I would have loved Evil Dead 2 or Evil Dead as a kid if I have not seen Army of Darkness, but that's just me. I know a lot of people have different, different views when it comes to watching a movie at a certain age. But Army of Darkness would play on the Sci-Fi Channel like all the time.
I got no USA played with Tremors and The Fly 2, like every chance they got. And it's funny, I actually saw Army of Darkness before I saw the other Evil Dead movies, and I didn't know they were related until I bought Evil Dead 2 on video when I was a kid. I found it at like Blockbuster for $5, and I liked the skull on the cover. So I bought it, and then the end of that was the opening. Well, not quite the opening of Army of Darkness, but it was obviously supposed to be. And I'm like, oh my god, this is the same series, and I freaked out. Because I had seen Army of Darkness, 100 times, but I never questioned. I'm like, oh, of course, it's just a random character that just drops into the middle of this movie.
I was right there with you, man. I watched Army of Darkness, and I was like, I was walking through Kmart, and I saw Bruce Campbell, and I was like, is that Ash from Army of Darkness? I can't tell. And then I read on the back, it says Ash, and I'm like, I wonder if these movies are connected. And I didn't really like the first Evil Dead when I first watched it. The second one, I didn't really care for it either. It was like, I was like, these movies aren't funny. They're not funny like Army of Darkness. But then as an adult, you realize that they're just better movies. But I mean,
Evil Dead 2, I lost my fucking shit when I saw that movie for the first time. So I was like, I never knew you could do that. Like, I was a big fan of Tales from the Crypt at the time, and that was kind of my introduction into horror comedy. And then I saw Evil Dead 2, and I'm like, you can just make a fucking batshit crazy, like, nonsense. I loved it. But, Army of Darkness, what you're saying about, like, the studio stepping in for the humor, that was all Sam Raimi. Like, that's, like, his preferred method of being is, like, super silly Three Stooges stuff.
Slapstick.
Yeah, I just think that they cut the gore out because those adventure movies didn't really have that. And, like, the Sword and Sandal movies, it was more of an homage to, like, Ray Harryhausen, those, like, the, Jason the Argonauts, all that kind of stuff. And
oh, yeah, very true, very true.
So I think they're all kind of their own little separate entity,
That's a good point. Another friend of the syndicate, Lonnie Reimer, said, I'm older and watched it as a kid and watched the show just because it was Evil Dead related and thought it was nice, but it could have been better. I think that's a general consensus.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people that are like losing their shit when the show came out. They're like, this is the greatest show ever. I was like, I mean, there's probably, I don't watch TV anymore, so I'm sure that most TV is as garbage as it was 6 years ago when I stopped watching. So it probably is the best show on television currently. But I don't think
Ray! Welcome to joining us.
Ray, introduce yourself.
No, they know who I am.
Aw. Yeah, Daddy's doing laundry.
Laundry. I'm a single father. I got a lot of shit to do.
Multitasking like a badass.
All right. Well, here's our president and Fuhrer, Razor, doing some laundry.
Doing laundry. Keep talking.
I'll tell you, Ray, it's impossible to get that cranberry juice stains out of those sheets, right?
Cran apple, actually.
Cran apple. No, but coming from a horror fan, Ash vs. Evil Dead, it was a funny show. Like, I loved all of his like dry old man humor, and his sidekicks were cool. But it just, I don't know, there was something about it that just didn't get me hooked. Like, I like every time it would come on, I'd be like, oh my god, it's on, I should watch it, and then I just don't, and then I find time to watch it and be like, oh, there's the show. So I don't know. I don't think maybe pirating is the biggest issue with the show, but I think maybe people just. What was that?
I have almost everything subscribed on cable, and I don't have Stars. I think that's the wrong channel for that show.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I thought Stars was, when I heard that was coming out on Stars, I'm like, Stars is still around.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The last time I ever saw Stars when they gave me like a free preview of it when I was a kid, and I'd watch like Pleasantville over and over again on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great fucking movie, by the way.
They Stars used to premiere Spartacus, which was also Sam Raimi.
Oh, that's true.
And Robert Tappert, and
that was very popular.
And
hi, Randy. Sorry, Randy.
It's okay. Hi, Randy Rock. Yeah, and that Ash vs. Evil Dead was all shot in New Zealand.
Really?
As well as Spartacus, yeah. Yeah, I was one of the commercial shoots I was working with. There was the production assistant was from New Zealand, and she says like the biggest thing out there is Renaissance films, and you know, that's where they shot Hercules. That's where they shot Xena. That's how Xena and Robert Tappert met. You know, through filming Xena in New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
So you know, and then that's where their studio is, where and you have all of these like New Zealand, Australian actors in Ash versus the Evil Dead. That's why when you see them, you're just like, how come I've never seen this person before? And it's because they're all from that area.
You hooked up with Peter Jackson and Weta Workshop or anything?
What's that? I'm sorry.
You hooked up with Weta Workshop and Peter Jackson at all? Is that why they're in New Zealand?
I think it's just because they've always been there, like since they started shooting Hercules. And
now that Ash vs. Evil Dead's over, I'd really like to see that Evil Dead Dead Alive crossover.
Well, you know that that Lionel's mom was a Deadite. There's actually, if you look in the attic when they're opening the dun.
You mean the shaving scene?
Yes.
He was trying to piece it together.
Give me a minute, I can come up with my fan theory.
They actually lived in the Voorhees house.
Yeah.
It was the second Voorhees house in New Zealand.
Yeah,
they like to travel.
The Voorhees house did have a well-maintained frontage. You know, and I believe Pamela Voorhees was a member of the WLWL, the Wellington Ladies Welfare League.
Yeah. Lionel.
No pudding. I can never think of like custard pudding without thinking of someone. Like,
every time I eat dessert pudding somewhere, I always go rich and creamy, just the way I like it. Somebody just gives me the look. They're like, "Oh fuck you," and then they can't eat anymore.
Just the way I like it.
You know, here's the thing: we were doing that like single movie bracket, and it was Dead Alive versus the Monster Squad. I felt like my heart like get ripped out of my chest because like Dead Alive and Monster Squad are like two of my favorite movies. Monster Squad, of course, being my favorite of all time. But I was so happy that I was happy that if Monster Squad lost, I was hoping that it would be to Dead Alive or Halloween 3. I did not want it to be into like Rabid the first round.
I really thought that Monster Squad was going to get taken over by Zombie 5: The Killing Birds.
Yeah, the actual Killing Birds. And you know, I just found out that they're Andre Gower, who was Sean in the Monster Squad, is producing and directing a documentary called Wolfman Scout Nards. And it's like a whole documentary on the Monster Squad. Birth Movies Death did like a cover on it, and they said it's like it makes you want to watch Monster Squad over again. And like they go into like how it all started, like, you know, getting rights for all the Universal monsters, and you know, working with Fred Decker and Shane Black in like their second calibration together, I think, since Night of the Creeps. And you know, Shane Black has just gone off, and he's like a powerhouse, like writer, executive producer, and director now, with movies such as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and the new Predator movie coming out. He also wrote the Lethal Weapon movies, so he's
and
huge.
He played Hawkins in Predator.
He did. Now he's directing it, the new one. So you know, his name's been attached. But you know, and the last time we saw Fred Decker was Robocop 3, and maybe a second segment from an episode from Tales from the Crypt. But you know, Fred Decker made like those movies. Like he made 3 movies with an episode from Tales from the Crypt, and then he just stopped.
What do you got? Needs more glitter? Is that what I'm seeing down there?
Needs more glitter.
Needs more
Monster
glitter.
Squad needs more glitter.
Yo, Fred Decker wrote House as well.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
You know, I wish I would have seen more from him, and I wish that, you know, RoboCop 3 wasn't his burden. Yeah, Well, that was the same reason why Schumacher's Batman was utter shit. Was because the studios and the toy companies and all of them took over, and they're like, well, we really want children to watch RoboCop, so let's make it PG-13 and have a kid as like one of the main characters of the movie, and like put in all these like jokes for kids. And the reason why people watched RoboCop was that it wasn't for kids. It was because kids snuck down to the TV late at night or put in a movie when mommy and daddy were off in the other room and watched RoboCop to see all the carnage, to see all like the cool sequences that it had, and the very retro effect that it has on today. And yeah, I mean, like, no one wants to see like a PG-13 RoboCop where people are telling jokes and you don't see blood, and I don't know. But I can't wait for the documentary Wolfman Scout Nards. And Mike, one day you will watch the Monster Squad and love it, because right now I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all.
I've seen Monster Squad numerous times, and I can assure you I was far from loving it.
Son of a bitch.
That's Balderdash.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
But yeah, I mean, but I'm wait, who won it? Was that Dead Alive or was that Halloween 3 that won that competition?
Didn't Halloween 3 win?
Yeah, it was Halloween 3.
And that's awesome because Halloween, The Last Night, has officially been titled as The Last Night, from David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. And
you mean the last night before the next last night?
Yeah. Halloween H40. Apparently Jamie Lee Curtis said that the trailer for it looks terrifying. I hope she knows what the movie looks like. But
trailers don't look terrifying ever.
Well, it does have Toby Huss in it, apparently, who played Artie, the strongest man in the world from Pete and Pete.
There you go.
Nickelodeon show, yeah, apparently. He was posting on Facebook and said that he had an encounter with Michael Myers. You'll have to check out the movie to see how it went. So that's something. I'm still not going to watch it because I don't like Halloween, but, I love Toby Huss.
They're completely ignoring the franchise. This is right after the first one.
That's what I do, Brian. I just completely ignore the franchise.
So Laurie Strode may not be Mike Myers' sister.
Oh, that's possible.
Why did she need to be in it then?
Huh?
So horror fans would watch it?
Ray said, why does she need to be in it then if she's not his sister?
Because she survived the first movie, and Nick Castle's reprising his role as Mike Myers, and they kept the continuity of him having, like, the one lazy eye.
Like a fixation on getting her, regardless?
Yeah. So
the one that got away.
This movie's like 5 months out, and we're like picking it apart already.
Welcome to the horror community, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Welcome to any community.
Yeah.
Everybody picks everything apart.
True.
But I would like to. I would have loved to be one of those test audiences, but I'm pretty sure that since it's such a bigger, well-known budget movie, and people who aren't even in the horror industry are working on it, I'm sure like GQ magazine will be like the first people there to like review the movie and be like, oh, it's the scariest movie since The Exorcist.
Maybe GQ will put out their fall line of navy blue jumpsuits.
Nice.
But I don't know.
Didn't they
excited.
unleash the poster the other day revealing the mask a little bit?
Yep.
I thought it kind of looked a little bit more like Zombie's mask than anything.
No.
Not that means two shits to anything. It's just like it doesn't look.
It's 40 years. We talked about it yesterday a little bit. It's 40 years old now. The mask. If it's the same mask.
If it's the same one, yeah.
Which I still think Dry Rot would take it over even more.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't even be able to put that shit on it as much as Michael Myers sweats. Come on, it's 40 fucking years.
It probably smells like fucking breath too, like bad breath. Like dog shit. Did you guys see that Shavar, whatever his last name is trying to get Reggie the Reckless in the Friday the 13th game?
Oh, cool.
Wait, is he going to be in feety pajamas?
I hope so.
As long as he screams, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
That kid had a scream on him.
We're going to get him on the show.
Yeah. So we should talk about our Brian's gone. We should talk about our horror origins.
Yeah.
Promise, folks.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about Monster Squad and and Evil Dead being things that you watched as a kid. So that is
he kind of gave us some of his origin, I think.
Yeah, so we can just ignore what he has to say. That's fine. He likes Monster Squad after all, and be honest with ourselves. Come on.
Yeah, I like Monster Squad, but I knew what it was when I was a kid, and I still know what it is. It's a kid's horror movie. It's like watching Goosebumps, just with a bigger budget.
I don't know.
I'd say it's probably got slightly better production value than Goosebumps all around, regardless of budget.
You broke up. I didn't hear what you said.
I was saying, I don't think it's just a budget thing. I think that it's definitely a few tiers ahead of Goosebumps. As much as I love Goosebumps.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I'll go ahead and jumpstart. Anybody that's read our webpage or read my bio profile, the movie that truly scared me for the first time that didn't really make me want to watch it ever again was Jaws.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I don't know what it was. I was probably like 5 or 6, and for a little while I had this perpetual fear of getting into the water, not like a pool or something, but like in a lake or
Mm-hmm.
I live in a landlocked state, so there's no fucking oceans around. But I mean, if I got into the lake, I was like, something's gonna pull me down underwater. That's kind of scary. But
I agree. I used to be terrified of swimming in pools. I'd always pretend that there was. Well, I didn't willingly pretend, but I always think there's a fucking shark in the pool, and I'd try to swim to the other shore as fast as I could, and I'd scare the shit out of myself.
Either a shark or an alligator in the pool.
Lex Quinn said that where she grew up, there was alligators in the pool.
Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah,
that is truly scary, dude.
Sharks too, yeah. And I had an irrational fear of pool filters.
I still do.
And the drains, the bottom of the pool. That scared the hell out of me.
You should read Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. You would love that. It's good to go to the pool drain in there. No, Jaws is classic stuff. That was another movie I used to watch on TV all the time, and I was just fucking shit terrified of going in the water.
Yeah, that was the first movie that truly scared me. But then, the first movies that I actually fell in love with the horror genre, one of them was The Monster Squad.
Woo!
And that was after I had seen Jaws, so I knew it wasn't as scary as Jaws. It was still a good fucking movie to me. Another one, House 2, the second story.
I hate that movie so much.
I might be in the minority, but I think it's better than number 1.
Oh, no, man. House 2 is number 2. Man, fucking kids movies. I just watched the original House on Blu-ray the other night. That movie's fucking amazing. That's a great intro to kid horror, though. It's not really graphic, but it's still
that zombie cowboy at the end always scared the shit out of me for some reason. But
it's the part with the electrician when there's the virgin sacrifice in the Aztec temple. He swings in with a sword, and then he gives his business card. It says electrician / adventurer. That was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that made no sense to the rest of the movie.
None of that fucking movie makes any goddamn sense. There's dinosaurs in that fucking movie.
Well, it didn't take itself too seriously. It was a fun movie. It's barely horror. I like it.
Yeah. The original House is pretty goofy too, but I felt like it kept a little bit more in line.
The original House was terrifying, though. There was a lot of terrifying parts of that movie. Even as a kid, the kid he goes into the pool and disappears by the pool and disappears.
Yeah.
And then you got Ben stalking William Katt's character the entire movie. A big fucking zombified Ben with his fucking Vietnam uniform on still. That movie actually scared me as a kid. House, I love, especially whenever his wife came over and he had to chop her up when she turned into the monster.
That's a fucking great effects bit. I love the purple witch.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw that one as a kid.
No, it's super goofy. I mean, I watched it as a kid. It's really goofy if you watch it now. Like it's very cartoony with the design of stuff, which I really love. But I mean, I think that it's like, I think it'd be a good introduction. I'd show my nephews that movie. Get them, so I got them on like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Tremors. I think that House fits in with all of those. It's more like it feels very much like Halloween. It's not like horror, but everything feels like a kind of goofy Halloween costumes and stuff. It's got a nice feel to it.
I like when they're watching the closet for the closet monster to come out, and what's his Norm or whatever the guy from Cheers. The two guys from Cheers. Yeah, when he thinks Roger's crazy.
Right.
I just love that movie. I think both of them are great. They're so different.
I never got to watch House when I was little. I think it might have actually like left a bigger impression on me had I saw.
Uh-oh. Jared, you broke up.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying I didn't see House grow.
You broke up again.
Whatever. Facebook doesn't want him to say what he's about to say.
No, he doesn't. Facebook
is very pro House.
God damn it!
I first saw House until Jared's unfreezing. I first saw House. I had an abscess next to my rectum, so I had to go into the hospital and get it drained. And
nice preface.
You're welcome. And so, just go into this story all nonchalantly. And the nurses brought in a Sony PlayStation because I was in the hospital for a few days. They brought in a Sony PlayStation, which I didn't play because the only game they had was Merlin 1995. And but they brought in a few VHS movies. There was The Dead Zone, there was Wolfman, and then there was House. And I must have watched House on repeat because I thought it was fucking awesome.
So what the moral of the story is, if you get an anal abscess, then they'll give you a free PlayStation and a bunch of cool movies on VHS.
Well, it was the hospital, yeah.
Go get the ice cream scoop. I got an idea.
It was the most painful experience watching Wolfman.
More painful than the anal abscess?
The anal abscess was pretty painful.
Watching Wolfman is like having an anal abscess. Although, like, what a fucking great cover. Or am I thinking of Bad Moon that had the really badass cover?
They both have really good covers. Bad Moon has a good cover. Wolfman has a good cover.
Oh, never mind. I'm thinking of Bad. Well, that's a cool cover, but I'm thinking of the Bad Moon cover. I always thought it was really neat.
Yeah, Wolfman was like, there was like wolves that lived in the city or something like that, and like Albert Finney was in it, and Gregory Hines, and I don't know. I don't remember the fucking story. I just remember there was wolves. But yeah,
I think it's more like a skinwalker Indian type thing than it is an actual werewolf movie.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe Ridgely says that William Katt is a real nice guy. He seems like
if you want to meet him.
Since I'm not frozen, I was just gonna say I think I might have had a better impression of House had I seen it when I was younger. I guess I don't know.
No, you probably would have, because then you'd realize how shitty House 2 is.
Yeah.
Let's not forget House 3, which is actually There's
House 4 of them, I think.
House 4 is actually House 3. Because House 3, they sold the foreign rights, and they couldn't name the movie House 3, so it's the horror show. The movie about the guy in the electric chair that gets killed, and then he comes back and for vengeance.
Oh, yeah.
That was House 3. And then House 4 brought back William Katt in the form
boring as shit.
Yeah, like a dog lamp that comes to life and saves his family from birds.
That sounds like something Stephen King would write. A dog lamp comes to life.
Doesn't Kane Hodder is the pizza man? By that I mean a man made of pizza. Like his face comes out of the pizza and sings, and then and then they shove him down the garbage disposal, which is what I did with the videotape that I had of it as a kid.
Wow. Wow. That actually might compete against Zombie 5.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that bad, but I'll tell you this. abscess than watch House 4.
Nothing is as bad as Zombie 5: The Killing Birds. Even Birdemic 2 is not as bad as Zombie 5: The Killing Birds.
What about the 90s The Birds 2 Land's End?
No, it'll never be as bad as Zombie 5: The Killing Birds. That movie is so fucking awful.
Land's End was produced by Showtime, so it had a little bit bigger of a budget. It just was really boring.
Yeah, I remember it being really boring.
Well, I remember getting excited. I was 12 or 13 when it came out, and I remember getting excited because I remember liking the original Birds movie, which is not very good either.
No.
And so I set up the VCR to record it while I watched it, and I stopped halfway through and just continued watching. I was like, I don't need this on tape.
Was it a TV movie?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a TV movie.
Yeah, it was produced by Showtime.
Okay. Well, Lex Quinn loves Birds too. That scene with the cockatoo in it was just really wild.
Michael.
So the movie that got me into horror, if you'll come back in time with me, I was 6 years old, probably 6 or 7. And I was walking through Kmart, which I don't know if it even exists anymore. Kmart is pretty much gone where I live.
They're all gone now.
But so I was walking through Kmart at Halloween time, and I came across a VHS that was in their Halloween display that had a skeleton dude coming out of the grave holding what I thought was a severed head. It was actually a mask. And that mask was a Vincent Price, and the movie was Dr. Fives Rises Again, which I have on DVD right here. This is a double pack from MGM, which does not have the cool fucking cover that I saw as a kid. But I begged my mom to get it for me, and she bought it for me, and I watched it like every day for a year straight. And every time somebody came to my house, I made them watch it. The scorpion scene where that chick like seduces the dude and puts him in like this chair, and then he like spikes come out and stick him to the chair, and then she locks it and puts the key in this big ceramic dog at his feet. So he kicks the dog over, and it's filled with scorpions, and then the scorpions come all over him and sting him, and then they find his corpse mounted in the claws of a giant golden scorpion statue.
When you were a kid, you had people come over where they like, damn it, future award-winning director Mike Lombardo, what are you making me watch?
Why can't we just watch Ninja Turtles?
I'm just 6 years old, and I would like to watch Ninja Turtles 2, The Return of the Ooze.
I mean, that Secret of the Ooze, that was one right as well. But yeah, that actually was about what it was like. Everyone's like, damn it, I'm going to have to watch those weird movies again. Because I had Dead Alive, Dr. Fives Rises Again, and Arachnophobia were like the holy trinity.
Oh, yeah.
Arachnophobia. It was fucking crazy. There's so many. I watched that movie so much. But Dr. Fives is like, I watched it again as an adult, and basically both of those movies were Saw before Saw.
Yeah.
And by that I mean they're basically like Saw, but like the not shitty version. And it's got Vincent Price in it. He's got all these like ridiculously complex like traps and games that he plays with people to kill them, and then he's got like this fucking crazy like mechanical clockwork like wind up band that plays like weird 70s music.
Yes.
They're super psychedelic and trippy. They're fucking great movies. So that was what got me into horror. And then of course, Evil Dead, Tales from the Crypt, and then Goosebumps. Like being a kid, like a horror kid in the 90s was great because the early 90s were so filled with weird like slime and gross. Randy, you just commented Dr. Fives. The abominable Dr. Fives and Dr. Fives Rises Again is what is like Saw in the comment section. But yeah, those were the big movies for me. Yeah, it's weird seeing. It's like what Nathan Milliner said last week, that the new movies that are coming out are like this generation's first horror movies that'll get them obsessed with stuff. So that's really, it's cool that we're talking about like our little origin stories, even though the movies we saw were way cooler because
most movies today suck.
Yeah, but
I'm in the same boat with you, Mike. I was a child of the 90s, and of course, like all the best of the reruns and shows were coming out and movies. Like I remember like sneaking down in the basement and turning on HBO and watching Tales from the Crypt. I remember going to Sci-Fi Channel watching Monsters. I remember going to Sci-Fi Channel watching Friday the 13th series. And you know, and the first movie I watched that I remember was going to the basement, and my dad was watching Monkey Shines, the George Romero classic. And I remembered seeing a monkey holding a razor blade. And for years, I was like, what is the name of this movie? And I keep seeing them, like, the cover of Monkey Shines, and it's got the toy monkey with the cymbals crashing. And I'm like, is it that movie? I don't know. I don't remember the toy monkey going around killing people. Is that Puppet Master? Am I confusing the movies together? What's going on? Is this Shakma? Is Shakma the poor man's version of Monkey Shines? Who knows? You know, my childhood troubled mind was like all over the place. But there was Monkey Shines I watched as a kid. The movies, People Under the Stairs was like the first time, like one of the first horror movies that I watched. Actually, it was the first Wes Craven movie that I watched.
I used to get One of the Stairs and The Hills Have Eyes mixed up because the titles were somewhat similar and that they had multiple words.
The Hills Have Stairs.
Yeah.
The most boring 2.5-hour movie ever.
The People Have Eyes.
People have eyes. People have stairs. The hills have people.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Brian. Keep talking. I'm gonna grab a DVD.
Yeah, go grab the DVD. And you know, I remember watching like late night horror movies that I can't even remember what movies they were, and I didn't find out what the titles were until I was an adult. We had the DVDs and streaming available. But I remember going to Hollywood Video and just like renting random movies, and Dead Alive and Arachnophobia, me too, was like you know, like the horror movies I watched as a kid and always had my friends come over. And I remember Trauma, like Toxic Avenger was the first movie that I saw that was a trauma movie. Well, second, I'm sorry, Stuck on You was the first trauma movie I saw, and then it was the Toxic Avenger. And which was way better. And I remember seeing like this actor who I was like obsessed with as a kid named Patrick Kilpatrick in it as one of the people who goes into the taco house and shoots the dog. And I didn't like that scene, but
I didn't like that scene.
But I remember like, you know, Toxic Avenger was like one of those movies that like kind of like fucked me up as a kid, but it got more lighthearted as the movie went on. Because like at the beginning of the movie, there's this kid who gets his head crushed by the teenagers, and they're like, oh, that's like 50 points. And I'm friends with the guy now, Dominic Calvino. And I remember that part where he was just a kid, and he was just like, all right, see you later, sis. He's riding his bike and then gets hit by the car and he gets his head smashed.
That's Chippy.
And yeah, it's Chippy. You're right. You know, I did the same thing you did, Mike. I kept bringing friends over. I'm like, watch these movies with me. Watch Toxic Avenger. Watch Death Wish 3 with me. And they're like, these movies suck. Can we just watch A First Night or Braveheart? And I'm like, no.
Can we just watch Space Jam again?
Yeah, right.
So I remember going to Blockbuster when I was a kid, and I rented this movie, Headless Eyes, which has the coolest box art of all time with one of those oversized boxes. You guys can see this. But it has a little warning right here that says, too gory for the silver screen, which was like fucking crack to me. And I was like, I have to see it. I watched that movie. It was the fucking worst pile of shit ever. And there's like no gore whatsoever. They dribble some red paint on people a couple times. But
and now he owns it, kids.
I want
the VHS of it because the cover's awesome, but DVD from Full Moon, I'm like, the fuck? Because they actually recycled that movie poster for The Killer Eye. Has the same one of the editions has the same damn cover, and I'm like, it's not the same fucking movie. Yeah, there you go.
It's actually called Terror Vision.
Yeah.
The Killer Eye Terror Vision. I was like, oh my god, let me get this. And here's the back cover of it. You got a guy with laser beams coming out of his eyes, and
that movie's a lot more interesting than Headless Eyes, which is just like a middle-aged bald guy running around like an empty city with an eye patch on, holding a spoon. Like literally, there's entire like 10-minute segments of him doing that. It's like the movie's like 55 minutes long, and it's like 30 minutes too long.
Well, I'm glad I got The Killer Eye because on the back it says director's cut. Can you imagine how fucked I would be if I got the R-rated version?
Oh my god, terrible. Another movie that I used to
rent. Totally touching on something that the kids in our, in the next generation will never, appreciate. Brian wrote a really nice article over a year ago about video stores dying out, and it's like we all did it growing up. You like, I've seen that one, I've seen that one, I've seen that one. That one looks fucking cool. I'm gonna rent that one. It's like, yeah, you can scroll through your own virtual library at home, but it's not the same as actually picking it up and looking at it and like
finding a movie in the wild. You know, it's like a whole different experience. And like, it was like my mom would take me to Blockbuster, you know, it was right down the street from my house, and my brothers would all rent something, and then I'd always get to rent my own movie because I liked weird shit, and I would just live in the horror section. What I would do is I don't know if you guys did this, but I would like fantasize about what I thought the movie was going to be based on the cover, which as an adult I laugh because no cover was ever anything to do with the fucking movie. There's such blatant lies. But I would like invent, so the whole like 8-minute ride home, I would have this entire movie mapped out in my head what it was going to be. Like this cover has like a snake going through a skull. That means it's actually about like this ancient like tomb where this like skeleton warrior did this, and I had this whole thing, and then I watch it, I'm like, oh, it's about like a couple that buys a house, and then there's like one of them dies at the end. Like that's it.
How about the original cover for View to a Kill? I did the same thing. I rented it thinking that Roger Moore was just on top of the Golden Gate Bridge firing a gun into the air, and that wasn't the case. How disappointed I was.
Jesus.
You know, the VHS artwork was like, I mean, that's what made the Goosebumps books so great, is that they were basically exploitation art for kids. But those movie covers, man, like you don't get that experience anymore. And you know, it was like playing Russian roulette because you had like a 7 out of 10 chance it was going to be garbage that you rented. But you never know. Every once in a while, you pull a winner. Like for every Headless Eyes or fucking Microwave Massacre, you end up with like fucking Reanimator or fucking Body Melt or Street Trash. You know, you get like, you never know. And like those video stores had like the most obscure random shit. But people that are obsessed with Netflix now, you get like 5 choices a month and then they're gone. And they're all made in like 2016 and they all have really shitty Photoshop covers. So like there's no personality to the packaging anymore and stuff. And I think that's a real bummer.
Yeah. I watched this movie recently, and it's actually known as like the most like artistic porno ever made. It's called Cafe Flesh. Have you guys ever seen or heard of it?
No, that sounds awesome though.
Well, the only way you can find it is on xhamster.com because I know these things, and it has the full movie on there. It's like out of print and everything. And it's like one of those movies where it's just like, yeah, you guys got to check it out. It's actually got like, it's got a lot of pretty famous celebrities from the 80s who started out in porn and they're in this movie. I'm going to give you guys homework. Go check out Cafe Flesh. You guys, go check out Cafe Flesh. And you'll know what I'm talking about.
I'll pass.
It's a sci-fi horror movie, but with gratuitous sex scenes. Is the best way I can describe it.
So this, have you guys ever seen this? The Boneyard?
Phyllis Diller?
Yes, it's going out on Blu-ray from Code Red soon.
Can you pull that cover up again?
It's a mutant poodle. This movie is not nearly as ridiculous as I think.
I have never heard of that.
One more time. Let's see the cover.
Fucking a weird zombie movie with like these 3 zombie kids. It's set at a funeral home, or not a funeral home, like a morgue, where there's like these 3 little dead kids that come in, and the guy that ran this funeral home, he was like feeding corpses to them or something. And he kept saying like, you have to keep them fed or they'll kill you or something. And he ends up getting arrested. And then there's these corpses, they come to life in this hospital morgue. And they're like these fucking like green and black slimy fucking gross little things. The movie is fucking creepy as shit. But then Phyllis Diller's in it, and she plays like the receptionist, and she's real snarky, and it's funny as hell. And she's got this little poodle that, you know, the spoiler on the cover of the poodle mutates.
Can you hold that up again?
But the movie is actually like really fucking awesome.
Brian really likes that dog.
So it's coming out on April 24th from Code Red on Blu-ray, and I can't wait. It's actually like a fairly serious movie. Like it's really good. You should definitely check it out. But that was something I rented when I was a kid because I saw that cover and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I had to see it.
I would have never picked that movie up based off the cover.
One more time for people at home.
It's so good. It's so
I'm
good.
gonna have a fucking stroke. That is the best
man.
goddamn thing I've ever seen in my life.
So you said Code Red's releasing it?
Yes. And I never thought that I would. And Phyllis Diller's name is Miss Poopenplatz.
Miss Poopenplatz?
Yeah. So a little side story. When we were filming White Doomsday, the person that we filmed in their house, Nikki Graybill, we shot in her basement for the bomb shelter. When I first met her, it was like 10 years ago. She had. We were at a party. And she put her purse down, and there was a name tag pinned to it that said Poopenplatz. And I screamed Boneyard, and she turned and looked at me, and she's like, "Who are you?" And then she was the only other person I've ever met that knew what that movie was, and we freaked the fuck out about it. And that's how we became friends. And then 10 years later, I took her house over for like 3 years to make this movie. So the Boneyard is what, if not for the Boneyard, White Doomsday wouldn't exist.
That's funny. It's like she didn't even say, "What's your name? How do you know that movie? Who are you?"
It's like, oh my god! I thought it was like a sting operation or something. Like,
I never.
I would have never picked that movie up looking at the cover.
Oh my god! I would have taken that away.
Yeah.
I would have taken that movie home and never returned it back to the video store. It would have just been mine forever. And I've done that with movies.
Yeah, I'll pay the $75-$90 rental.
Yeah, that's how much they cost.
Jesus.
So let me pose a question to our live audience. What is the first horror movie that you guys saw? Like, what was the thing that caught your eye at the video store that turned you into a fanatic? Like, what is the one movie that you found that if you flash forward 10, 15, 20, 30 years later that you would be watching this podcast right now, and that's the reason. So you can thank that movie for listening to my dumbass talk about the Boneyard.
Best cover in my life ever. Yeah, no, I definitely want to hear from you guys in Facebook land who are joining us and who have been watching for a while. Pretty much what Mike said. What movie started you guys out, or was the first horror movie that you guys watched? Everyone always talks about Friday the 13th. I didn't watch Friday the 13th until I was an adult.
I watched it when I was a kid because a guy this kid up the street, his older brother had them, and his mom didn't care that we watched stuff with tits in it, so that's why we watched those all the time. Got you.
I remember seeing, I think Dream Child was the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie I saw, and then the first Nightmare on Elm Street. No, then it was Freddy's Revenge because it was always on cable television.
Oh yeah.
On like USA at like
that was how
Sunday afternoons.
That was how I saw the first Friday theme. Like it was like 4 or 5 because they were always on USA like late at night on Saturday nights.
Yeah, Saturday up all night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, my other great memory of the video store was a pre-owned VHS because I collected videos when I was a kid. And I found Species for like $4, and for some reason they sold it to me because I remember watching the preview all the time on TV, and I thought it looked really neat. I had no idea it was basically a softcore porn with Natasha Henstridge. So when I finally saw it, that tape got hidden in my room. And, my bastard little brother ratted me out, and my mom took it from me. But that movie was something, all right, to a 11-year-old Mike.
Is that the movie where Michael Madsen gets a beach?
Yes, it is. It was really weird. It was interesting. And I think not Jay, but what is his name? Is in it. Ben Kingsley's in that movie too. I was really rooting for him to get a beach, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think he gets one in Gandhi. I think he gets like 5 in Gandhi. It's not a Gandhi movie. It's you see Gandhi getting a beach.
That's definitely. I agree.
I remember watching Species. Species was, you're right. Species was a softcore porn, but the effects were like fucking awesome.
It's actually a really cool movie. I bought it on DVD recently because my internet wasn't working, so I decided to revisit Species one lonely Friday evening. But it's actually a really cool movie. The Giger stuff is really awesome. Like the bone train, which is not a joke. Like there's actually like the recurring dream. There's actually like a train made of like human bones, and he actually built this fucking thing out of real bones. And he put his own money into it. It cost like $10,000 to do that scene, but he paid for it because he wanted it in the movie. It was really weird.
I love Giger. Like I want to get a Giger tattoo, but I know that it will cost me a pretty penny. Because
it's worth it, man. I love his stuff. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, you know, I really, you know, love the documentary, Jodorowsky's Dune. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see that yet.
No.
I heard it was great though.
It's awesome. And they had everyone lined up for that movie. They had Orson Welles lined up for it. They had Salvador Dali. It was going to be directed by Jodorowsky, written by Dan O'Bannon, and Giger was doing all the special effects, and the movie fell apart. And then Giger and O'Bannon teamed up and did Alien. So, like, without the failing of Dune, we wouldn't have had Alien.
Well, there's a documentary about Giger called Dark Star that's really cool. They kind of just go through his house was like stuffed floor to ceiling with artwork and shit that he did. Like he was like a pack rat or a hoarder, but with his own art. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really interesting to see, you know, just how fucking nuts he was. Nuts in a good way.
Yeah, I loved all of his like. I loved how like industrial his artwork was.
Yeah, it's all biomech.
Yeah. But you know, it's a shame that, you know, he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, but it still lives on. I remember Alien 3 was one of the first horror movies that I saw, and the only part of the movie I remember was Ellen Ripley jumping into the molten lava.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. And
lead, I believe.
I was like, why are people so obsessed with this movie? And it wasn't until later you find out that Alien and Aliens were like these masterful projects that were just, you know, completed and everyone knew about them except 6-year-old Brian, which is fucked up.
When I saw Alien 3, I rented it. My mom took it away from me because they like every other word was fuck. And my dad was like, who fucking cares? And I was playing like the Alien 3 Sega Genesis game. And I wanted to see it. I kept rewinding the part where the guy gets sucked into the fan like over and over again.
Yeah.
When I met your mom, she was so funny. We were talking about like Ren and Snippy and all that, and she was just like, "Yeah, Mike always loved the fart jokes." And then now I look at him, and I'm just like, "Yeah, look at him now. He's an award-winning director." So
now it's all dick jokes. I've evolved.
Yeah.
He's grown.
My mom. So it's funny with at the New Jersey. Brian's talking about the New Jersey Horror Convention and Film Festival. When Doomsday played, we actually went to a private room party with Bob Camp, who is the co-creator of Ren and Stimpy, and he's like talking to my mom, and you know she's telling him about how I was when I was a kid and all this stuff, and he was going off on this tirade about how I was super passionate and I had a bright career ahead of me and all this stuff, and my mom's like, he's very nice. Who is he? And I'm like, that's the guy that made Ren and Stimpy. She's like, I didn't like that show. I didn't want you watching that show. I was like, you hear that, Bob Camp? And he's like, Ren and Stimpy had mom repellent sprayed all over it. So he took it in stride. I'm sure he has his fair share of angry mothers telling about that. But
oh yeah,
that was the cool thing about like the early '90s though. Growing up, like everything was gross and slime. And that was awesome, you know. Like you guys remember the Dr. Dreadful play sets, like the Food Lab? You could make your own gummies. They brought that shit back. I don't know.
I got one of those sets for Christmas one year, but I don't think it was the main one. It was probably a knockoff.
Well, they had like all these little mini sets, like the zombie drink lab and like the gross brains lab and all that shit. I mean, it all tasted like garbage, but
it was crap.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, am I doing it wrong? I was like, this tastes like shit.
I had the creepy crawlers. Have you guys ever had creepy crawlers?
I have my original Creepy Crawlers oven downstairs. I'm getting a tattoo of the Creepy Crawler oven. That's what got me into special effects.
Oh, okay.
I learned mold making from that. Creepy Crawlers are fucking amazing. That's like the best.
Well, was it that, or was it the easy bake oven that kids were like setting themselves or burning themselves? I don't remember.
Well, there's Easy Bake. Well, they both pretty much were the same thing, except one was orange and green, and the other one was pink. But they had, remember the bake oven? That was like the Dr. Dreadful version, where you could like make gross cakes. Which, I mean, they already were gross. Like, if you ever ate the damn stuff, like it all was gross anyway. Do you guys remember the fucking McDonald's? This is really off topic, but like the McDonald's like do-it-yourself like food lab thing that had. And it's like you just eat like bread and put it in a mold. It's like, look, French fries. Like,
yep, I remember that specifically.
So I'm like, man, I can make all this McDonald's food for free. Like, we'll never have to buy McDonald's again.
Nope. Yeah, I remember that. I remember owning the McDonald's do-it-yourself. Like the milkshakes were there, and like you could make like the hamburgers, and fries was the bread. It had like it looked like a little toaster slot. You put the bread in, you had this wheel crank, and you cranked it, and you just got these strands of bread.
I don't remember that at all. I guess I'm a couple years older.
You know what really did get me into special effects, though? Not just Creepy Crawlers, but it was actually the cover of this.
I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm. Oh my god! I just got over the fact that that's the most funniest cover I've ever seen in my life, and you keep doing this to me. I'm gonna die on the show.
If you died on the show, Brian, I think it would get trapped and you'd be a ghost in the machine.
Oh, thank God. You know what? That was another movie I watched as a kid. And you know what else? Leprechaun.
Oh,
I remember the scene when she gets Jennifer Aniston gets scratched under the car. I remember that, and I remember the pogo stick scene.
Pogo stick scene is so fucking stupid. Oh my God.
See, that's what happens when when you're Francis and you steal the wrong bike.
Francis.
Oh, we can't talk about our horror origin stories without Tremors. How big of an influence was Tremors on you guys when you were...
I definitely. Am I cutting out?
Yeah.
Yep. It's only when you have something intelligent to say, then it just freezes up.
I thought Tremors was the unofficial sequel to Footloose.
I mean, it pretty much is.
I remember playing a game growing up with my brother about trying to like step on stuff so you couldn't touch the ground. And
well, yeah, we used to play like there's like lava. You have to in the grocery store. You have to jump through the colored tiles, and then that became there's graboids. You have to like jump from rock to rock. We used to play that at school. And then we play blob tag, which is actually really cool. If anyone out there wants to play blob tag as an adult for some reason, one person is the blob and they're it. And then every time they tag somebody, then that person also becomes it. So there's like eventually it's like 25 people versus one.
All touching each other?
I mean, when I play it, yes.
Like, do you like combine when you tag somebody?
You have to like you lock arms, so you just keep getting bigger and bigger. And then we had like the playground at the school that our elementary school. There was like a little like wooden house, like a little like it was like a little log cabin looking thing. So we used to play Friday the 13th tag in there too. So we would hide. That was a safe spot. But if you were like hiding inside the cabin during blob tag and they were like looking directly at you and they were only like a couple feet away, they could shoot a tentacle out and that would pull you in and then you'd get sucked in too because it was specifically the Blob 87 remake that we were playing.
Like, what would happen if like a kid was too stinky or that you didn't want to play with them, or a kid was too stinky, or another kid was parents are too poor, like you didn't want to play with them, like what would you do?
Usually they were the one that was it and everyone just ran away from them because they were dicks. That absolutely was a thing. But Friday the 13th tag was really cool because if you were it, you were Jason and you could run as long as nobody was looking at you. But the minute they looked at you, you had to walk. And then they would kill you and then you were out of the game. And we had a bunch of one of those little paper things where you like do that, and it's like the little you fold out the. You know what I'm talking about? Little fortune telling things that we used to do as kids. You make them out of paper. You have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's interesting.
Well, we used to have all the games listed on that, and we'd pick one, and then or we do bubblegum. That's how we figured out what horror movie tab we were gonna play.
You kids in East Pete are goofy. I like it.
We were weird fucking kids. We were real weird.
See, I did this thing when I was a kid. I was not good at any sports. And most of it was dodgeball, and I was not good. So I would venture off and make drawings. And I was never really a great artist, so I would just make all these terrible drawings. So I'm like, I'm going nowhere in 5-year-old Brian, and right. So it's
the existential dread really hit early with you.
I should have been best friends with future award-winning director Mike Lombardo.
Well, dude, you could have come over. We could have traded anal abscess stories.
Oh yeah,
you got one for me.
Good times.
If we put our abscess together,
that's like anal abscess blob tag.
We can watch Wolfman. If we put our asses together, we can watch Wolfman.
Is watching Wolfman that side effect of watching that movie give you an anal abscess? Is that a thing?
No, every time you get an anal abscess, you have to watch Wolfman. That's part of the treatment. It is part of the treatment. So I hope your rewind button works because we're going to be watching over and over again.
Okay, speaking of rewind, you guys gave me a segue. We all grew up in the VHS era, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What was the one movie, we'll limit it to horror, that you watched so many fucking times that it stopped working? That's why I said we're limiting it to horror. You guys get your mind out of the gutter.
No, well, see, that's the problem because mine is Jason Goes to Hell. There's the tent scene.
The tent scene.
Which I believe we've talked about at length, and Lex Quinn just disgustedly crawled away from me because she saw me that. No, but the VHS copies that I ruined was definitely Dead Alive, and I was gonna say the original Dawn of the Dead I rented 6 times in a row, and I kept rewinding the head explosion scene. So that I gave that movie tracking errors because I was a dick.
Hi, Lex.
Hi.
Brian, what about you, buddy?
Man, I really wanted to say Flesh Gordon.
That's what I said, horror.
Yeah, I know. So now I gotta come up with
that movie. It's pretty fucking horrific.
Okay, and I think it has to be. I don't know. I watched the shit out of Predator 2 all the time. That was one of the only horror movies I had on VHS that I really watched over and over again because I love it.
I got to see Predator 2. I was in the hospital with an anal prolapse. He gave me Predator 2 to watch. They also let me see this. The Boneyard, which is how I got the prolapse.
God. So is it one of the rare few times that the movie is actually better than the artwork?
Yeah, well, the original cover is not that. I can't remember what the original poster looks like. That's just the crappy DVD. But sorry, I'm derailing this again. Continue. Predator 2, Brian. Or if he's incapable, Jared, what was yours?
Reel it in, Brian. Reel it in.
Oh man, I love that artwork. It is the best fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Now it has to be Predator 2. I watched that movie over and over again. That I think it was the scene where Danny Glover is fighting the Predator on the Predator ship. Is the scene where it's the most fucked up because I kept watching it for the Alien continuity.
Yeah, because the fucking alien skull, right?
Yeah.
Even though aliens have exoskeletons, when I was 9, I'm like, this doesn't even make any sense. I was so upset.
But yeah, there wasn't a lot of movies that had any tracking errors. I rented a lot of the movies, so if they had tracking errors on them, it was from previous owners or previous renters. man, I'm so glad that today's generations would never know what that's like.
Yeah.
To just like pick out a movie that looked really cool, you take it home, and
You
it's
hope for the best.
Yeah.
Or the fucking the VCR eats the tape.
Oh yeah.
That just happened to me recently with Demon Wind because I saw the Blu-ray was coming out from Vinegar Syndrome, and I'm like, shit, I gotta see if this movie's good or not because I don't want to pay $30 for it if it sucks. So I put the tape in, and my VCR ate the tape. Then I paid the $30 to buy the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray, and I didn't regret it for a second because it's amazing.
Do we have any comments on Facebook?
I don't know. People are pretty quiet today. I think it's all the talk of anal abscesses. No one's telling us what their first horror movie was. Come on, people. You're watching. We see you. We're watching you. No.
So I have a couple of movies because I actually used to work at a video store growing up. When I was like, well, it was a grocery store that had a video store in it. So I worked at the grocery store.
People don't remember that. There was a Farmore by me that had a video store in it. It was awesome. I saw Mutant there for the first time. It's a terrible movie.
I was able to buy a bunch of movies on VHS before DVDs came out. And the one that I remember the most would be Demon Knight.
Hell yes. I fucking love that movie.
I don't know why. I love the music. It's just something about that movie. I was raised pretty strictly Catholic, and you know, movies about demons and stuff like that have always like grabbed me. That was one of the ones that once it got about halfway in, it just stopped working one day.
Oh, that's terrible.
It wasn't like I watched it every day, but I watched the shit out of that movie.
I wanted to see that movie in the theater, and my mom wouldn't let me. And then she rented it for me and had no idea how fucking, like, how many those tits and stuff are in that movie. She got so mad at me. I was like, hey, you rented it for me. Because she's like, oh, it's like that show. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Just like that show. The opening of it is like the fake movie. The chick's in the bathtub. Those were the good old days. But that movie's actually, like, watching that again, that movie's actually, like, completely excellent. That holds up so well.
It really does. It's over 20 years old now. It holds up really well.
Ernest Dickerson is a great fucking director. He actually did Bones with Snoop Dogg, which is actually a really good movie, too.
I've heard of it, but yeah, I never saw that.
Yeah, it was like a send-up of, like, the 70s blaxploitation horror movies. It was really good.
All right, what was the one? It was like a black Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood. That's it.
Fucking cool too. That came out from Scream Factory recently. I got to pick that up.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah, I haven't either. I'm excited to revisit it.
And there was one other movie, D. Snyder's Strangeland.
Oh my god, I've got a great Strangeland story. Then I'll tell you.
It's not a true horror movie, but it's just a really good fucking creepy, thrilling movie.
It's basically Clockwork Orange with body piercing. That's what it is, because it's about a guy, he's crazy, then he gets caught, they reform him, and then he's incapable of defending himself against an angry public. And then
it was also one of the first movies that really brought internet predators into the forefront.
Yeah, that's true. So, Brian, you mentioned we were talking about D. Snyder's Strangeland. So, my little Strangeland tale here. I got an email one day. This is probably 9 or 10 years ago. And I got an email on the Real Splatter website from someone that was asking me if I would like to produce Strangeland 2. It was D. Snyder's assistant. And I didn't realize it at the time, but our logo for Real Splatter is a guy in a gas mask, and that character's name is Dr. Chud. Because I love Chud, and it just, it was like, he's like a mad scientist or something stupid. So that was what we put on everything on the website was Dr. Chud, blah, blah, blah. I was unaware Dr. Chud was like the 75th drummer for the Misfits for like a week. So they thought I was Calabrese, like Dr. Chud from the Misfits, and they were trying to get me involved in Strangeland 2, and I kept telling them that I was not him, and they just would not listen. They just kept emailing me like all this shit about like production schedules, like all this crap. And this went on for like 7 emails. And then finally, they just sent an email. I was very angry. They're like, is this even Dave? You're wasting our time if you're not him. And I was like, I told you I'm not, like in all capital letters. And I never heard from them again. I should have fucking printed those emails out and framed them. It was so fucking funny. They're like, Strangeland 2, produced by Real Splatter Productions. Sounds great to us. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll make Strangeland 2.
You should have jumped on it.
I was trying.
Then it looks like they still haven't made it.
Yeah, well, that's because I dropped out, you know. Go back through old issues of Fangoria. I'm sure the whole story's in there.
Have you seen Strangeland before, Brian?
I've never seen it. I only heard great things.
I mean, it's not the greatest movie in the world, but it's like it was the late '90s, and he plays an internet predator that like
the body mod guy.
What's that?
The body mod freak. He's like into like scarification and piercing.
Scarifications, tattoos. And it was like one of the first films that kind of really brought like internet predators in the forefront that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Degrassi was already on that at the time, but you know, that's a whole other podcast. But you know that the scene in Strangeland where he pierces the guy's dick, he's got his lip stone shut, and he's like, "What piercing do you want?" And he's like pointing, and then there's one of like a bar through the head of the guy's dick, and the guy goes, and he goes, the ampling. Now that's a piercing. I never forgot that. So I always say that before I reveal to people that I have, you know, like so much metal on my junk. It jingles. I always tell people when I'm done with you, it's gonna look like a hole full of sloppy Joe. But anyway, we have a comment from Bonnie Reimer. Night of the Living Dead, 1968. I watched it as a little kid around 6, and it scared the hell out of me, and I became obsessed with it. Well, Lonnie, I've never seen Night of the Living Dead, and I'm sure it's great, but I've never heard of it. No, that's a fantastic movie, and that is an absolute classic. And if you haven't picked up the Criterion Blu-ray of it already, you definitely should.
Yes, please do. It looks great.
But I actually watched the remake before I saw the original as a kid, because I had Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Oh yeah, there you go, Jared.
Yeah.
But I saw those, and then I rented the remake first because it was in color, and I actually love the remake a lot, the Tom Savini one. I know that I'm probably in the minority on that, but I think it's a really great movie.
It is.
Tony Todd does really well in that movie.
Oh my god, he's amazing in that movie. I just don't like the end where they made him a zombie before he gets shot by the sheriff. So I agree. Really undermine the racial undertones of the original. And that kind of bugs me. But aside from that, I think it's really great. I love the effects work. The zombies look fantastic.
Well, yeah, Savini.
Well, Savini didn't do the effects for that movie. He just Optic Nerve did it. Yeah.
Was it Greg Nicotero and those guys?
No, they were busy with. I believe they had just started KNB at that point. But yeah, they weren't involved. I think it was Optic Nerve. John. I cannot remember the fucking name of.
I remember like having a TV guide, and we had HBO when I was younger, and it was back when there was only like 40 channels, and I think like 40 was like Cartoon Network, like the TV guy said that at 2 a.m. on Wednesday night, Night of the Living Dead was playing, and it was Tom Savini's, and I stayed up till like 10, fell asleep. My mom woke me up because she knew I really wanted to watch it. Woke me up at like 1:30, and I woke up and I watched Night of the Living Dead at 2 o'clock in the morning by myself at night, and that was fucking awesome. I love that one. That's like one of the better remakes.
I gotta get that Blu-ray of that, because the only one that's American is the Twilight Time one. Lonnie loves the remake too. Excellent, very good.
This is Umbrella did a mix match where they had the original and the remake in a double Blu-ray set.
Ooh.
Umbrella's the same company that's doing the new Reanimator set also, and I think they're from like Australia, but they do region-free Blu-rays.
Oh shit, that's a region-free?
This one is, yeah.
Before, yeah. Okay, cool. I'll have to check that out. So speaking of Blu-rays, did we talk about the thing we were talking about last night at all, or no?
What? Your boneyard? Why does Brian keep leaving?
I don't know. Well, yeah, we have some potential news for the website, but we'll deal with that next time. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about that or not. But that'll be very fun if you enjoy
Go ahead,
listening.
Mike.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
So Ray is giving me the go ahead. We're gonna be doing Blu-ray reviews on the website. I'll be doing video reviews of like special features and all the stuff coming out from Scream Factory and Arrow and all that. We'll be telling you guys what the best collector's editions and stuff are. Hopefully sometime soon. So if you like listening to us ramble about movie editions and stuff, and you're a collector, then you'll be sure to get a kick out of that. So yeah, Horror Syndicate exclusive on Horror Syndicate Lives. One of the many reasons you should be watching every Friday.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. My name is Brian Enright. You can follow me here on Facebook as Brian Enright, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter as the Horror Jew. And up next we have Jared Letourneau. Jared, where can we find you?
You can follow my fat face on Facebook at Jared Letourneau, or follow my twat on the Twatverse at zombie_survivor. I don't have a twat. Sorry. Bye.
Thank you very much, Jared. And I guess, of course, award-winning director Mike Lombardo. Where can we find you?
You can find me facebook.com/realsplatter. That's with 2 E's. Also, www.realsplatter.com. And, of course, the Crimson Screen Horror Film Festival next month in South Carolina. And you can also find me in the Boneyard on April 24th from Code Red.
He's also in pre-production for the remake.
I'd remake the show. That movie would be amazing.
Alrighty. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of the night, and stay scary.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.